the heart of Robin Hood County.
BBC Radio Nottingham.
Now, racism in comedy hit headlines this week in light of language used by comedian Frankie Boyle and David+Walliams, along with Matt+Lucas's new airport mockumentary, Come Fly With Me. The six-part show, which first aired back on Christmas Day, sees the Little Britain duo playing a series of characters working in an airport. One such character is Precious, played by a blacked-up Matt+Lucas wearing an afro wig and speaking in a mock West Indian accent. Now, the series prompted complaints, with some viewers labelling it racist, outdated and reminiscent of a minstrel show. Speaking via his Twitter account, Matt+Lucas addressed the comments by claiming the show attempted to affectionately reflect multicultural Britain. But is it ever acceptable for a white actor to black up in the name of comedy? Nottingham actor Andrew Shim of This Is England fame joins me now with his thoughts. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Now, in This Is England, it was set in a time when minstrel shows were still very much fresh, I think, in the minds of people living and growing up in Britain, and particularly for the wave of second-generation African and Caribbean immigrants, such as the character Milky that you played. Do you think, with that in mind, that comedy of this sort has any place in Britain nowadays?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I watched the programme Come Fly With Me, and I thought, personally, I found it hilarious. I mean, I didn't see any problem with it instantly, and I didn't realise until, just the past few days that there had been complaints about it. In saying that, I mean, the thing is with the character Precious is that she is, on terms of blacking up, she is actually an accurate, more accurate representation than back in the day when they used to, paint the face as actually black. It's a funny one.
Now, as an actor, your job is to adopt a persona and to play a character that us as the audience are going to find believable. With that in mind, is blacking up, as the character Precious has done, just another way for actors to kind of adopt the persona of the character that they're playing?
I mean, to be honest, personally, I reckon, in my personal opinion, I don't really see a massive problem with Matt+Lucas doing what he's done. Like I say, it is an accurate representation of a black woman. It's not a Mickey take. Fair enough, the character herself is a Mickey take. So are all of the characters in the programme. The girls behind the desk at the checkout. Your typical blonde, clueless Liverpudlians. I don't really see a massive problem with it.
Now, following the show airing back on Christmas Day, the Guardian newspaper published an article by a journalist who, kind of similarly in line with what you're saying, I think, claimed that the show wasn't actually racist, but perhaps instead it was just tactless, and it kind of relied on crude racial stereotypes.
Well, it's actually funny because you know how our Precious keeps on coming up with excuses to not have to work. I mean, I personally find that really, really funny because it's the sort of thing that I probably would have done if I was working at this coffee shop. I mean, I can remember working at a petrol station once and wanting to go out. I was doing a night shift, and I went into the control board and turned all the electricity switches off to send everything haywire, and called the manager, said, "Oh my gosh, something's gone really bad with the system. I'm gonna have to go." And it just turns out it was actually New Year's Eve that this happened on, and I was fortunately allowed to go out. So I mean, I can actually I'm quite familiar with what she's actually doing, but it's not necessarily saying that all black people or black women or whatever do those sorts of things. It's just something that I personally have done. But at the same time, the character who plays, I can't remember his name, he's like the border control guy who checks your passports and whatnot. I mean, they make him out to be a massive racist and really, really, ignorant and whatnot, but that's not to say that all passport control people are like that. It's a difficult one.
At a time when you haven't got that many black faces representing the breadth of people in Britain that come from African and Caribbean communities, should we be worried? Should the African and Caribbean communities of Britain be worried if what was shown on Christmas Day and again yesterday in this mockumentary Come Fly With Me is what's considered family viewing over the festive period?
You see, I was speaking to someone earlier on about it, and maybe they should have aired it slightly later. Then, you know, I mean, I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly what time it was on. Probably 8 o'clock, something like that. But maybe they should have aired it slightly later. So, you know, it's definitely an older audience that's watching it who, you know, who understand the ins and outs and won't get that sort of like perception that is what, you know, a black person is all about. You know, the fact that they don't want to work, and they'll come up with any, you know, ridiculous excuse to, like, throwing the cups away, or she ain't got any milk, why she can't, you know, make coffee.
Well, there is that problem that as much as you can laugh at it on one sense and think, yeah, it's funny, it does show a side of of comedy which to me is so tasteless, that you have a white man blacking his face up, wearing an afro, putting on a mocked up West Indian accent, and then saying that he's too lazy to work. It definitely, to me, feels as though it's feeding into a sense of what black people were considered to be like 50 odd years ago.
No, that is true. That is true. And to be honest, I didn't really look at it like that. That's a point that I didn't really take too much notice of, and that is very, very true, because yeah, it's when you look at it like that, it can be perceived as very, very, very negative, regardless as to whether it's funny or not. And yeah, when you look at it like that, it is, you do have to question whether they should have thought a little bit more about it. And again, it's going back to, you know, the days of, you know, the minstrel sort of thing. It's I mean, the thing is back in the day, it was a very, very, very inaccurate representation of a black person, you know, actually painting a face black. And I mean, back in the difference between now and then is that I don't think Matt+Lucas did that so that he didn't have to hire a black actor to play that part. I mean, but you know, back in the day, I'm pretty sure that, in fact, I know that a lot of the times they did that so that they didn't have to hire a black person or an Asian person. And like I say, back in the day, it is a very, very negative, very inaccurate representation of a black person. It's like taking a Chinese person and, you know, getting a white person to play a Chinese person and painting them yellow. You know what I mean? Or getting a black person to play a white person and painting them pink. You know what I mean? It's not really acceptable.
As an actor and as a black actor, would you feel comfortable playing a part alongside a white actor blacked up?
Oh, probably not, to be honest. Yeah, I'd find it. It's funny you ask that, because now it does make me think. Well, if I wouldn't feel comfortable playing alongside an actor, a white actor blacked up, you know, then it obviously there is something there. There's something that's negative, and yeah, I would struggle, to be honest. I'm not saying that wouldn't, but I would definitely have to think about it. I mean, one thing that kind of like I brought to, that I was thinking about earlier on, is the film White Chicks, which is the exact same, almost the exact same thing, but the opposite way round, which is where the black actors were made out to be white girls, and that can be seen as, you know, very, very negative, a very, very negative description of what a white, you know, American 19-year-old girl would be like. I mean, can you say the same thing for that?
I think I would agree with you on that. I think the only difference I would add is that it's a DVD which almost went straight to DVD and wasn't on kind of family viewing time on the festive period. But again, I agree with you. It's exactly.
Yeah, because I mean, I loved the film. I didn't watch it for years, and then one day I sat down and watched it and laughed my socks off. I mean, but then I'm pretty sure that there's someone out there, probably quite a few people out there, that didn't, you know, weren't too keen on it. And again, it's like you can't do one thing and get away with it, and then someone else does the same thing, and then, you know, you ridicule it. It's it has to stop across the board.
Now, after watching the mockumentary Come Fly With Me, I posted some comments on my Facebook asking the questions that we're discussing now.
Yeah.
One of the comments that came back to me was that there's always a victim in comedy, and that people who are offended should either switch off or need to lighten up. Do you agree with that?
I do agree that there is always going to be a victim in comedy. The thing is with people like, is it Richard Pryor? He's passed away now, obviously. But the thing is with him is that he, you know, comedians, like a lot of black comedians, they would take the mickey out of themselves and also take the mickey out of the way that they're people, black people were treated back in the day, and that is acceptable because you're taking the mickey out of yourself. Whereas with Come Fly With Me, they're a white character is taking the mickey out of a black person. So
is that where the problem lies for you?
I think so, yeah. But it is true what they say. In comedy, there is always going to be someone who's having the mickey taken out of them, and I can see the point, to lighten up slightly. But in light of everything that we've said, it's there still has to be some sensitivity with it as well.